about poverty and it being within the Black community and how it is not this idea, right? It is not this depiction that we orient ourselves with because of the media, right? And because of the mass depictions of poverty. And so we think about poverty and we think about African American people and why we're impoverished, why can't we get ahead, why we're stuck, right? We instantly think of starving children, ravished buildings, right, deplorable living conditions. Images that come to our mind and may come to your mind as well is post crack epidemic, right, where there was drugs, there was violence, there was gang activity in New York, right? And that's what we think when we think about African American poverty, and that's what we think is the sole predecessor to why many African American people cannot seem to get out of this state of poverty. Now, outside of economic factors like economic inequality, I want to talk about what poverty is, and I want to talk about it outside of the context of material deprivation. Okay, because we talk about this a lot, and I think we're at a point where it's overextended. There are resources, right? It may not be comfort, right? But there are resources, there are food banks. I think in 2026, I know we are reverting, right? We're under this administration, and many of the safeguards that were put in place for the American people, for people who were impoverished, and for African American communities and in other minorities, right? Those things are being undone. So I know that, but I want to speak about what poverty is, and I'm gonna be quick. I'm gonna be quick because I'm making noodles and I don't want them to burn. But I'm gonna be quick, and I want to talk about why so many African American people don't actually make it out of these communities, right? Why we are still struggling to get ahead despite the support, despite all the things, right? Black Girl Luxury, all of the podcasts, all these, why we're not getting ahead, right? So we're going to look at it from the context outside of economic, hindrances and things like that and inequalities. So what poverty is it's like you're in the state with people and everyone is in a survival mode, okay? And when people are in a survival mode, they don't think logically, they don't think critically, they don't actually have time to really sit and process anything, because if they were to sit and process anything, it would bring up a lot of emotions, a lot of things in which they may not be able to articulate, right? When we talk about survival, survival is the state of it's an ongoing stressor, right? But it's the state of, um, and we may have to continue this conversation for another day. But I waited too late. I was sitting here journaling, contemplating my thoughts. I have to go now. But we are going to have a conversation about poverty, what it does to the mind, and what it is that actually hinders a lot of African American people from getting out of these communities, right? I know we love a rags to riches story, but there's so much that goes into that, and there's so much that I think is on the back end that we don't talk enough about psychologically, and what is really going on relationally in these environments that keep people stuck, right? And simply put, I think what we're going to do, and what I want to do, is really explore, what does it mean we talk about crabs in a buckle, oh my god, what does it mean to talk about crabs in a barrel? I was going to say bucket, but I don't think that's the saying, right? I want to elaborate on that, and I want to expound upon that, and I want to provide context as someone who has experienced that, right? And I want to kind of shine a light on that, because I do think that at this point, advocacy for many African American people, it's starting to be a bit redundant. I think that the conversations that we're having are the conversations that we have been having, and it's not moving the needle forward. And I do think it's time that we introduce new ideas and we start to shine a light on some of the areas that have been hidden for far so long, that need to be uncovered, and we need to have a conversation about it. I have a podcast coming out here shortly where I'm just speaking about why advocacy is shifting for me, why I feel a little bit different